Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast that, like Harrison Bader, are not thinking about the St. Louis Cardinals. My name is
Aw.
Nate. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host Ben Samorka.
There's the video going around of him and Rizzo hanging on each other was
know.
really not good for me.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and of course I was lying when I said what I just said because that's all we do is think about the St. Louis Cardinals, and we're happy for Bader, of course, and we're sad. But on this episode, we are ready to move on a little bit to talk about the off season. We're going to be discussing some of the contract situations and what we think the St. Louis Cardinals should do in this upcoming off season. If you have an idea for the opening joke, tweet us at Talk About Birds. All right. Well, I guess we should. Well, this whole anytime we're in the off season a little bit earlier than we had hoped. So everything here is going to be, with a tinge of sadness to it. But there is one thing, we want to acknowledge, and I guess send our condolences. Bruce Sutter passed away, Cardinals legend.
Yeah.
I know
baseball legend changed the game. Well, they didn't make players like him before he was, and they weren't used like that. And one of the I think he might be the first relief pitcher to join the Hall of Fame. Is that right? I think I might be right on that. I'll look that up as we go on. But yeah, I mean, obviously a Cardinals legend, like maybe a fraught Hall of Famer with the amount of time it took him to get in and how he got in and all that stuff. But absolutely deserving Cardinals legend. And we also know a guy that was like always wearing the red jacket, always around Busch Stadium, being with the guys and everything like that. So, with any of these times these guys pass away, it's always sad.
Yeah. And younger than you'd, hope. So yeah, it seemed like a really cool guy. So just wanted to send our love out to the family and to all the people affected by it. But yeah, real legend. So
yeah.
So as we move into the off season, these episodes, we're going to stay consistent with our release schedule, but the content therein may change as we figure out what we want to talk about. I think we've got plenty to talk about now, but just a forewarning, we've got some goofy ideas as we get into the off season.
I would rephrase that as interesting ideas.
Yeah,
I apologize as a frog climbs through my throat. Interesting ideas and ideas that are really gonna turn the format on its head, Nate. I think we're really gonna blow people's minds. I want to set expectations to be sky high.
We're gonna change the game.
I am going to reinvent podcasting. That's my goal.
Wow. Well, I mean, what a hype session. So while we're on the topic, we have to get to the thrilling conclusion of a game that is now gone 6 episodes long, I believe.
Yeah.
That has run the entire season, and it's been ripe with controversy. The Discord, the Bird Scored has been aflame. But it's time now for us to come to the conclusion of our game. Draft Day Heroes and Hatchlings edition. Let's play the music a little bit.
Yeah, I almost think this music is great. It's almost a little too light for the occasion, though.
Yeah.
No, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Okay.
We need like the music from The Weakest Link. Can you just spin that up really quick?
I'll see what I can do.
Goodbye.
So let's do another recap. If somehow this is your first time,
goodness.
if you're joining us for the first time, first of all, welcome. What a time to be alive. What a time.
Hi, my name's Ben.
We already did the intros.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah. My name Nate, and we at the beginning of the season, we did a draft where we each had to select 6 players, 3 from the big league roster and 3 from not. And we went in snake order. Ben got the first pick. I took the second, went back to Ben, so on and so forth. The goal was to see who would accrue the most F war through the 2022 season. On the episode that was released on the last day of the season, I had calculated the scores, thinking there's no way the last game. Yes. I spent hours in my laboratory.
Oh my God.
Hey, it's getting spooky season. I'm working on my my voices here. And I had we realized that somehow the last day of the season absolutely was going to matter.
Yeah.
Ben had selected Johan Oviedo. I had selected Matt Liberatore. They are against each other in the last game of this season. Who could have predicted it? And so we decided, all right, I went into the last game with a 0.1 F4 lead. Last week, we calculated the true ending of the season. And somehow, between the 6 players that each of us selected, we ended on a flat tie at exactly 13 F4.
So stupid.
Is wild. So we decided in the moment, for better or worse, to for the tiebreaker to go and look at Baseball Reference.
Yes.
As they have a slightly, or maybe not so slightly, as we're going to see, difference in how they calculate war.
All right.
I kind of intentionally didn't even look up how the differences, like what are the differences.
Yeah.
But I think we might
great fodder for an off-season show. We can break down the differences in the calculations of F war and B war.
And that's the kind of game-changing stuff we're gonna do this off season.
Don't unsubscribe. That's a joke.
I mean, you can unsubscribe.
Yeah, actually,
you probably should.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go down the list here.
Yeah,
and I'm going to give you the players' B war.
Yes.
Okay.
I'm going to get ready to bathe in victory. That's how confident I feel.
So Ben's selections were Paul Goldschmidt came in at 7.8
Let's
B war.
Go.
Big jump from F4.
Yep.
Tyler O'Neill, 1.3, which was exactly the same. Harrison Bader, 1.2, slight decrease.
Oh, no.
Brendan Donovan, 4.1.
Let's go.
Brendan Donovan, B-War loves B-Don.
B. Samorka loves B-War and B-Don.
B-Sim. Johan Oviedo, 1.1, which was an increase. And Alec Burleson, negative 0.1.
Damn.
Which was actually an increase.
Yeah.
I'm not going to do the totals yet.
Okay.
My team, Nolan Arenado, 7.9.
Wow.
Giving Arenado the highest of any Cardinal. Not that surprising. Dylan Carlson, 2.0, which was a decrease. Adam Wainwright, 1.8, which was a decrease. Nolan Gorman, 0.7, which was an increase. Juan Yepez, 0.4, which was an increase.
I say Yepez.
I say Yepez too. We say Yepez. And Matt Liberatore, negative 0.5, which was a big dump from Fangraphs. So the total,
I feel pretty good, I think.
My team comes in with a 12.3 total B-War.
Boo,
which is lower. And Ben 15.4.
Let's go. Me, Brendan Donovan,
Donovan,
B Sim teaming up together to win. That is an easy win. I didn't even need most of Brendan on that. Honestly, I just needed a little sliver of it.
So here's what I'm going to say.
Yeah. Say it.
This is bullshit. And I think
yeah.
in the bird scored,
yeah,
it was rightly decreed that really we should have done it where
C70 isn't here to save you now, my friend.
We don't have to name names. It was the collective bird scored feels that it was the spirit of the competition was Cardinals, and because Oviedo and Bader are not, then we shouldn't count them. And I think that I win. So how's that feel?
You may think that you win, but as discussed, I win, and I'll take my prize, please.
I'm playing this game under protest, and I'm going straight to Manfred.
We can play the tape back we could do a whole episode just listening back to the tape of the episode that we put this on, and then we can follow it up with the subsequent. No, I won.
Listen, and
I'm being a gentleman about this. I'd like to point out I'm being very cordial. You suck.
My feelings don't care about your facts, sir. I think that I actually am the one who won. So good job, me.
Wow.
B-War.
Never take an L.
Never take an L. I am interested in why B-War liked your guys so much better than mine. It is just still truly amazing that we tied on Fangraphs Wars. So
it's nuts.
I'm my guess is that there's that B-War puts more value on defense. The only reason why I could see Brendan Donovan being so much higher than he was, because it's not like he was a masher or anything. So 4.1 B-War, like that's, approaching into like high end season, and he didn't have the bat for that, but we all know he was fantastic defensively. So
yeah, I wonder, like, also, like, the two things you could say about Brendan Donovan's season is really great defensively all over the field and really high OBP. So I'm wondering, and maybe we should actually take the time to look into this. I'm wondering if the Fangraphs War is actually weighing power more than, and BREF is weighing on base over power.
Yeah.
Although obviously both are super important, but yeah. Okay. Well, anyways, you suck. I rule. Brendan Donovan's great. Move on.
Yeah, I guess it's time to move on. So we'll do this again next year, and we'll set clear expectations for how we'll handle a tie, so we don't have to do it three episodes in a row.
I get where the bird scored's coming from, and I get where you're coming from and everything like that, but I cannot predict. You cannot predict who Girsch and co, Mo and co, whatever, are going to move away from or what they're going to do. I would like to point out that both of those players who were traded were inactive on the big league roster for months.
I don't want you to bring that up because I know.
So if anything, it hurt me.
Yeah, I know. I'm actually certain, looking at it, that if we just subtracted their time not on Cardinals, you still have a higher number than me, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is that there's a way.
You have something to yell about. Yes. Okay. I see.
But if we take it away, I don't know about that was total. Let me look at Fangraphs real quick. Yeah, I think I win so I win. Okay. I've determined, I've done the numbers. And no, Ben, good job. You wrote to Baseball Reference in the last week and got them to change the numbers. It's the only thing that makes sense to me.
Yeah, I you're the worst loser of all time.
No, I think I'm great at it.
Yeah. Wow.
All right, let's move on. Shout out once again to associate sound producer Chris Phillips for his beautiful draft day song. we hopefully won't hear it again for like 5 more months whenever we do this again in March or whenever we decide to do it. So let's get into some of the stuff that we want to talk about in going into the off season. So there's been some Wainwright discussion. I think, if we start with we know we're no more Yadi, no more pools. So like one of the big stories going into the off season is the Waino situation. And I think there's a couple different stories here to talk about. Big picture, is he coming back?
Right.
And then underlining that is his tweet thread that he put out, like basically right before we recorded last week, and we didn't really have time to talk about it. But there hasn't really been much of a change since last week to this week. But we didn't really get a chance to talk about it before, so we thought we would do it today. How are you feeling? Like, if you were to make a bold prediction right now, like what do you feeling on the Wainwright front?
Yeah. Well, I think first, just to if you did not pay attention to the Waino tweet storm, that he was kind of basically explaining himself to the fans of the media of like, this is what happened. And the long story short of it is that after a start about a month and a half before the end of the season, he was hit by a comebacker on the knee, and then it reduced his extension, meaning the way that he stretches from the rubber down the mound, by about a foot and a half. And his mechanics were normal other than that. So I think it was hard for him and Mad Dog and the Cardinals to put together. And he basically said, like, I was cutting my stride off early, somehow did not pick up on that. It wasn't being diligent enough on my video work, and that it wasn't dead arm. It wasn't this, it wasn't that. It was that was the huge problem there. So I think it's, first off, I want to say I thought that was really cool for Wainwright to basically just sit down and have like a fireside chat and be like, "Hey, here's what happened. Give me all the criticism. I should have found this. We all should have found this, but figured it out and made adjustments, and that's why I was going better towards the end of the season." So cool on him to just be super transparent. That's great. And then to answer your question, it is. Well, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to talk about it to start off the show is because I think I've kind of flip flopped on this a little bit. I don't know exactly how to feel about it. Prior to the Montgomery Quintana trade, I think it would have been 100% yes. Figure it out, incentive laden. Throw a contract at him. Just get it figured out 1 year. Why wouldn't we have Wainwright? He's one of the best pitchers in the organization. Now, as time has gone on and the Quintana and Montgomery trade are in the background, and we have some interesting things happening in the minor leagues, and by that I mean Connor Thomas is looking strong. Tink Hence, while far away, is looking strong. And you have Graceffo, you have Liberatore, you have Dakota Hudson might be effective. Zach Thompson might be effective. There are so many young names out there. And then if you don't even want to talk about like betting on young guys is the way the Cardinals have kind of gone for, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6, 10 years, it's kind of been the way it's gone. If you want to look outside of the organization, there are a lot of big names on the free agent market right now. And let's say if you do want to, let's say, or sorry, if Jack Flaherty is healthy, and that's all working the way that we think it's going to work, and he has a nice healthy season. If you go get a big arm on the free agent market, Carlos Rodon, for instance, is there a spot for Wainwright? It's hard for me to argue if you go get a Rodon, you still have a pretty stout 6-man rotation, especially if you're dipping into those young guys. So I guess I'm kind of answering that with a question right now, and then I'll toss it back to you. And then I think after you say what you're going to say, maybe I'll give a more real opinion.
So that was all a fake opinion?
I mean, that was just me kind of laying the groundwork for my thought process, I guess.
Yeah. First of all, you said dip into the young guys, which just made me uncomfortable for a moment.
It's a Kyle Reeseism right there.
Yeah. Yikes. Yeah, I have also gone back and forth on this. I thought before he went out and laid out his explanation for why he was bad, I was thinking this might be retirement time for Waino. That
Yeah.
he would come out. I was starting to expect some sort of press release of like, I'm not a Hall of Famer, because he's so, this is my expectation of Waino doing this. This isn't me putting it on him. But like, I'm not a Hall of Famer. Yadi and Pujols are. I didn't want to distract from the ends of their career, but I want you all to know I've decided to step away as well, or something like that, right?
Yeah.
Be the crazy, humble, modest guy that he always is. But then he put that out, and you could read it in a lot of different ways, and I think one of the ways to read it is him basically saying like, y'all, I'm still fine. I was good before it. That was a very specific situation that we solved, and I'll be back next year without a problem.
Yeah.
So I read it more as that. He probably explains it anyway, either way, but it just really felt to me like that's laying the groundwork for like, I could come, or I'm ready to come back if they'll have me. Because
Right.
to your point, it is a two-way decision. Even if Waino wants to come back, do the Cardinals offer him? I think so. So ultimately, I do think he will be back, because we've gone now several years going into the year saying like, well, we've got all these options, we've got all these guys, and 2 years in a row now it's been trash, and we've had to like pull people off the scrap heap to save the rotation. This year they went a little higher than pulling off the scrap heap, which saved the season. And now we have Jordan Montgomery, and I know like there's a lot of talk about bringing back Quintana, but like, besides the strategic element of bringing back a Waino, like obviously the Cardinals are willing to extend legacy players. If the Cardinals were thinking, I hate to say this, but if the Cardinals were thinking truly like absolutely strategic, they probably wouldn't have extended Molina as many times as they did. But like the value of having him on almost like a emotional level, I think added some of that day-to-day, value. So I think if Waino wants to come back, the Cardinals will give him. I'm predicting $12 million with incentives all the way up to like $20 million if he outperforms, and then we'll just figure it out from there. Because you can never have too much pitching, and like you could do a lot worse than getting an Adam Wainwright.
Yeah, and I think my counter argument to that thought process is, first off, I loved having Molina as long as we had him, even though he became ineffective in the final year and a half. But I think, I've rallied about the Cardinals needing to find another catcher to replace him. But I would actually say, like gun to my head, probably the biggest hole in this team, and especially watching these playoffs where you see Yu Darvish and Aaron Nola and Garrett Cole and Tristan McKenzie and all these, and Nestor Cortez, all these great frontline starters having great seasons. Like, I'm just sitting here looking at the free agent list for starting pitchers, and some of these names I will say are frontline starters, and some of them are very, very, very good number twos. But Chris Bassett is a free agent. Mike Clevenger is a free agent. I don't think this is going to happen, but Jacob deGrom is a free agent.
Right.
Just keep going down the list. Dallas Keuchel.
I think we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about our like off-season hopes later on. And I think like, why not both? If we've seen it year after year, like these guys keep getting hurt, or our young guys take, like we've talked, and you mentioned Kyle Reese, like we've talked about there's obviously some problem that the Cardinals have with like getting over the hump of hot, like good pitching prospect into good top end or even high level starting pitcher, because the entire rotation this year was all non-Cardinals except for Waino, who went through the development cycle 20 years ago. Obviously I have a lot of hope in Hintz and Graceffo and Thomas. There seems to be a new crop of these guys, but like, I don't know, where's Alex Reyes right now? He's
truly, where is Alex Reyes right now?
Probably
like, physically, where is he?
Yeah, I think he's going to get DFA'd.
But
Blurg. Yeah, but or non-tendered or whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess likely my expectation is that this will be resolved one way or another in the next couple weeks. I do not think Wainwright or the Cardinal organization want that question to be uh like drug on. And I don't think it's a question of looking at the market. It's like like with Matt Holliday and all that, it was like, okay, he's going to test the market. The Cardinals are going to test the market. We'll see what happens. And they finally did a deal in like January. I think with Wainwright, it's the team probably already knows. And I think probably both sides kind of already know. It's just been a matter of either contract negotiation or waiting for the right time to announce.
Yeah, and I wonder, like, I think that you're probably right, and I think I'm going to ask myself a question and then answer it right away. It's like, what's the
Wow.
difference between last year and this year when Waino did seem like he was legitimately entertaining other teams? There was talks of him becoming a Padre, and there were some other teams involved. I think the Yankees may have been involved as well, but they were winning teams. I think Braves. There were winning teams that were looking for Waino services last year, and my guess is that Waino at this point is pretty much Cardinals or nothing. I think that the way
Yeah.
that last year went, how could you go to another team? I think that would be my, if I were to put money on it. That being said, if the Cardinals don't sign him and they say we're moving on from Adam Wainwright and he suits up with the White Sox next year, I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I think that you're probably right.
Yeah. I think we'll find out soon. And I think he's gonna be a Cardinal. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Um I've never been wrong before, so there's a
Wow. Uh,
all right. So Wayno moving on. The topic no one really wants to talk about. And we don't really have anything, I think, maybe new to say about this, but we're gonna say it anyway. That's what we do on this show. Nolan Arenado, I think this is the real clinch of the offseason. This is the
yeah.
one that I'm like, I want to know now. I want like I really would have loved for Arenado like 2 days after elimination to come out and be like, hey everyone, like don't, I know that was disappointing, but don't worry, I'm a Cardinal and I'm sticking with it, like, but
Yeah.
that didn't happen.
No,
So
it did not. Well, and I don't think it's going to happen. I think the most likely outcome here, um, and I guess really quick, I'm just going to like super high level this so that just to make sure that we're all on the same page. Although I'm sure most people know what we're talking about. When the Cardinals traded for Nolan Arenado in that insanely lopsided deal, the MLB asked for the Cardinals to change the way in which Nolan's contract was organized, and that meant adding another opt out after last year to be after this year, and it also added a $15 million final year, additional year to the deal, and the club or the MLB decided that that was worth the cash value of kind of the lopsided trade to make that a little bit more even and a little more player friendly. So that means Nolan can opt out at the end of the season if he'd like to. And the reason that that is complicated is because he is far and away the best third baseman on the free agent list. And I mean, maybe the best third baseman in baseball. There's probably a Jose Ramirez that might argue that, and Manny
or
Machado,
yeah.
but pretty good argument that he's one of the best third basemen in baseball. So the worry
Well, he's
comes from
30 years old and likely a Hall of Famer, so you
yeah,
hard to
yeah.
argue that he's not the best. So
So all
uh,
that being
yeah.
said, I do think he wants to stay in St. Louis, and I think what he's going to do and what makes the most sense, especially after the year that he just had, is that him and his agent are going to, before the free agency period, try to figure out a way to get Nolan more money on the back end of that deal and see if they can leverage that opt out to become another year or two. My guess is that they would replace that 1 year 15 million with a 2 year 50 million on top of the existing contract, something like that. Get him to his year 38, get him paid, legacy player, the last jersey
Yeah.
he wears as a Cardinal, and then he rides off into the sunset. That is what I truly believe is going to happen. And I will say all of that with the idea of absolutely you should. You got that opt out because the league thought it was fair. That is a tool or a lever that you can pull to get yourself more money, and top end players should do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And that's sort of a spoiler to my when we talk about the offseason later, like our predictions for it, I think the most likely thing is that the vast majority of the activity this offseason for the Cardinals is dealing with internal situations rather than very many external situations. And I think this is one of them. I don't know what the rules are in the pre-opt out period. Maybe you do. I think there's also a possibility that his agent is calling other high-end competitive teams, because we know that's really important to Arenado, to ask if there is interest for him before they make the decision, because the Yankees could use a third baseman. The Dodgers probably could use a third baseman. I mean, I know they like Arenado or Vargas, but they are a fantasy team. They just collect the best, and there's a bunch of high end, really good teams. The Phillies that all could use third baseman, and so I could see there being some degree of like, hey, would there be a bidding war for me if I enter the free agent market?
Sure.
A bidding war amongst top end teams, which there could be, And if the answer is yes, then he might say, all right, Cardinals, you're in on the bidding war too. I opt out. Come at me, Dodgers, Yankees, Phillies, Cardinals, whoever makes me the best offer. I to your point, like, I would hate that, but he's one of the best he's going to be Hall of Fame. So he's one of the best of all time. So he should be doing that. We all like to love the like fuzzy feelings of like, no, he loves the Cardinals and he's going to prioritize the Cardinals, and maybe to some degree. But guys don't usually, if it's matters of like single digit millions, you'll see people make those decisions. We saw like Harper, he wanted a 13-year contract, so he prioritized length over AAV. You see some guys sort of like have preferences within their contract, but if there's a option out there where he goes out and makes like $100 million more dollars than he's offered right now, like, he would do it, just like Pujols with the Angels. Like, this is, and so would everyone else.
Sure. Oh yeah. And I think, the good news for the Cardinals, you flavor this however you want, but because of his age and the way in which people like him decline, I think it's probably unlikely. Like, the Yankees have Aaron Judge that they need. That is going to be their top priority.
Yeah.
I think that the Dodgers are going to do everything they can do to keep their superstar shortstop, Trey Turner. Trey Turner.
Little throwback.
Yeah. So that would be my prediction there. Now, if that sets up the Cardinals for good things, maybe not. But yeah, I think that's why wouldn't he do that?
Right.
And to answer the earlier part of your question, hit us up, talk about birds at gmail.com if Nate and I are both wrong on this. But to my knowledge, he is a Cardinal until 5 days after the World Series. And he's not really allowed to negotiate or do anything outside of being a Cardinal until that day happens. Now, does that mean that his agent can go put out feelers and figure these kinds of things out? I mean, probably. I don't know to what degree that is investigated, but that is the way that I believe it works. But again, if you have more information than us, hit us up, talkaboutbirds at gmail.com, and we'll correct that.
Yeah, there definitely are rules about what agents can do when you're under contract with one team, but I'm not familiar with them right now. And that, again, is the type of podcasting that we bring to you day in and day out. So I'm hopeful.
Is the expectation that we should understand like a contract law? I mean, I think we did okay.
I think we did okay, but I guess, if we're the ones who we bring up what we want to bring up, so maybe we could be better about not bringing up things that we don't know.
Yeah. I would like, with people with the type of brain capacities and power that we have, I think that was all very impressive.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we're completing sentences is really impressive for just for what's going on up. Up there. Oh yeah. All right. What do you want to talk about next? I'll flip it
What
over to
do
you to
I want to talk
for a
about
second.
next? I think we got a couple of funny things that we can talk about really quick. But speaking, continuing the old man conversation, we'll move right along. Yadi Molina, who's no longer a Cardinal, superstar of my heart, will has been announced as the manager of the, and I can't speak Spanish, so I apologize. He's been named the manager of the Navegantes de Magallanes of the Venezuelan Professional Baseball League. Hey, I can say those words.
I commend you even trying.
Navegantes de
Magallanes?
well, the double L is a Y, right?
Magallana? Oh,
Magallanes.
we need to move on.
Navegantes de Magallanes. Oh, okay. Anyways, if you can pronounce that any better than us, email talkaboutbirds@gmail.com.
Well, I could pronounce that better. Thanks for the email. Nice. But I like you directing everyone to email, not Twitter. So that's
Yeah,
good.
no.
Send it to us privately.
Twitter's a bad, dirty place. Email us.
Yeah.
And I think that's really exciting. It has a little press conference and everything like that. And I guess like my thought is like, when's he going to manage in the MLB? Do you think this is a stepping stone? Because to me, I'm guessing I'm going to try to read Yadier's mind right now. As he saw Mike Matheny have zero managing experience, go straight to the big leagues, flounder miserably, look stupid, get fired twice, and was like, well, maybe I should go cut my teeth with in Venezuela and see how that goes, and then maybe I'll see if I want to be a big league manager.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I mean, it's funny we would, for I think us as Cardinal fans, think of Mike Matheny as a failed big league manager because he also, we didn't talk about it, but he got fired from the Royals,
I
and
think we roasted him a couple of weeks ago about that.
did we? So, but he also had like a 12-year career as a big league manager and
Yeah.
might get another job somewhere else. So I don't. It might, even though we love to roast him, I don't know that anyone outside of like us would call that a like floundering.
Well,
Getting
Yadi was watching it though.
true.
I mean, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. You keep going.
No, that I'm just a observation, but like, yeah, I mean, there was a time in Yadi's career where he was getting that question a lot, and he would say pretty repeatedly, "I don't want to be a manager. I'm not capable of making the decisions that are needed to be made in the regular season that prioritize longevity rather than the day-to-day win." He basically implied like, I want to win every game so strongly that I can't be a manager because a manager can't manage that way. And that was a while ago. So he absolutely could change. But I also noticed that, for a lot of his managerial uh, career thus far has been in like short tournament style things, right? Where like you can go in and manage to win every single game. So doing these other things might be to build that experience like you're talking about, but it also might just be like that's the level at which he wants to manage. And being a major league manager is not necessarily his goal.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess I'll mark all that with, ooh, I would love Yadi to be the manager.
Bring him back, special assistant to the GM, so he's around. And then, we're both huge Marmol fans, so I'm thinking more like, some sort of like, let's create a special position, like, or make him, a bench coach or something that has him in the dugout, basically directing the pitching staff.
Yeah. I don't. Here's another thing that we don't know about on a topic that we brought up. I don't know exactly what the Venezuelan Professional Baseball League season looks like, but I really hope that Yadi could be some type of force in spring training or with the young guys. Like, obviously, he really enjoys teaching the art of catching. So, anything to keep that going.
I'd be really surprised if he's not involved in Cardinal activities like going forward. I mean, he might take a break like a lot of guys do, take a couple seasons to just go and live a life that is not dictated by the MLB's insane schedule.
Yeah.
But I'd be surprised if he's not at least a like spring training guest of honor, assistant coach sort of thing like that.
All right, moving on into more news that isn't really news. Albert Pujols, our king, our savior, is dating the former president of the Dominican Republic's daughter. And I just, I don't know. Good for Albert. I think that this is, he's going to leverage this into being the next president of the Dominican Republic.
He might be. Yeah, he's gone and got himself a Kennedy,
Yeah.
like it's pretty remarkable. What a come up. It's just a continuation of the summer of Pujols,
Yeah.
He ends a relationship that clearly wasn't working for the two of them anymore. And then he goes and, sets a whole bunch of new baseball records and got himself the daughter of a president, and
No.
she seems nice, and I'm happy for him and happy for her. So it's just nice to see him thriving after 10 years of kind of being a joke
Yeah.
in a way,
Can I?
so
I want to predict something. We are going to see a report in 3 weeks that says A-Rod is now dating Chelsea Clinton because he wants to be just like Albert.
Yeah. And then we're gonna find out that Jim Edmonds, set up. Even though it's probably not true at all, Jim Edmonds is gonna imply that he's the reason Pujols and this woman are dating now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
God. All right. We can get out of Albert's personal life, but as we were talking about the old men, I thought that was relevant. So
Yeah, it's
we can move
fine.
on there.
Yeah. All right. So there have been a couple actual like off-season front office moves. Two that I'm excited about. Michael Girsch, the I guess the general manager of the St. Louis Cardinals, was extended, and I think more exciting, Randy Flores, scouting director, was extended. I joke about Girsch because it certainly just seems like it's Mozeliak, and I don't really know what Girsch is doing, but they've kind of addressed that too. That
Yeah.
like the transition was not as smooth as they wanted because of the pandemic, but like we should start to see Girsch as the actual GM, soon. But ultimately, I'm more excited about Flores being extended. The 2020
I
draft is going down as an all timer, especially if Connor Thomas is starting to break out too.
Yeah, I think Mo and Gersh and DeWitt have put together a model that is highly sustainable and very risk adverse. The only thing that I think that you could really sit here and criticize them for is that, the Cardinals don't have a top third analytics department as far as budget and humans. So, is Gersh the guy to expand that? If we give him a little more power, is he going to add to the numbers? I do believe that is a problem that baseball teams should just throw money at, because even if you expand, if they tripled their analytics department, it would be a TJ McFarland deal. Like, that is the cost. Like, just go do it. Go throw money at. I love
Yeah,
what the way the Giants handle it, where they have something like 15 coaches and a huge analytics department. Like, that is such a cheap way to improve your team. So that'd be my
yeah,
one criticism on those two guys. I'm fine with Gersh sticking around. I am curious to see if he does get like what you're talking about. But yeah, with that caveat, or with that topic kind of in the background, how are you not excited about Randy Flores getting more power, getting extended longer? I mean, we were just talking about like this draft that he had with Walker and Hintz and uh, uh, Burley
and win.
and Win. This is going to go down as an all time draft. The
Yeah,
farm looks really strong right now. We've talked about that all year. Um, I only want to give Randy Flores more money, more resources, more time to see his vision. Obviously, the dude knows what he's doing. No notes.
yeah,
keep going.
yeah. There's been talk that other teams have started sort of knocking the door a little bit on both Girsch and Flores,
Yeah.
and so lock them up, get them,
Yeah.
get them the
I mean,
time.
honestly,
You know,
if he found a bunch of nothing and then just stumbled into a Brendan Donovan and a Jordan Walker every 3 or 4 years, like I mean, he's just been great. So
yeah,
yeah, I've again no notes.
yep. All right, so we've got some more things we want to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit more about our wish list for the off season. But before, and we're going to check in on the current playoffs or whatever that is. But before we do that, I want to remind everyone that this show is supported on Patreon. We have a fun little community that is going basically 24/7, talking about the Cardinals, talking about the playoffs. Just
should have signed Harper.
Should have signed Harper. Every team should have signed Harper. And, we're just having a good time in there. And if you want to support the show, support what we're doing, support the time and effort that we put into this, as little effort as it might actually be, we would really appreciate it. Go to patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. Any subscriber at any level gets access to the Bird Scored. Get on in there. We'd love to have you. Also, consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. Ben, where can people find us elsewhere?
Make sure to follow us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. Again, that's Talk About Birds on Twitter, the horrible, mean place that it is. Although I guess we got some Twitter friends, so shout out to the Twitter friends. You can follow us on Instagram at Talking About Birds on Instagram. Again, that's Talking About Birds on Instagram. And as I've already said this episode, if you want to email us, talk to us, questions, corrections, explain to us how baseball contracts work and how what free agency is, please email us at talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. And yeah, I think that's all I got. I want to say again, we appreciate the reviews, and a big shout out to our bird squirters. It's been so much fun, and it's been really nice having kind of a community to mope about with and complain with about the Cardinals being out and kind of watching these other games in the playoffs. So that's been a fun time. And again, shout out to the Bird Squad.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to keep it going all off season. So, if you like the content and want to keep it growing and supported, check it out. So, all right. So now we're going to discuss sort of our, I guess, how do we want to do this? I'm thinking there's like two different topics. There's like our hopes for the off season, and then I think there's kind of like, what do we actually think is going to happen?
I think what we should start with is what we think is actually going to happen, and then we can cap it with if we were Mo or DeWitt, because that'll be a little more fun to talk about because we know the conservative, risk adverse, as we already talked about, approach that the Girsch and Mo have and DeWitt have. But what do you predict is going to happen if you were going to like put money on this or something?
I think the most likely thing is that the vast majority of the offseason is dedicated to things like reworking Arenado's contract to ensure that he stays a St. Louis Cardinal forever, possibly extending Jordan Montgomery, and dealing with a lot of different like upcoming arbitration and potential long-term contracts for some core pieces. And I unfortunately think that the most likely thing is that we see no major free agent signings to the Cardinals this year. I know there's a lot of talk about the catcher position. I love the Sean Murphy idea. I hope that happens, and I think it's probably the most likely of all the Cardinals getting a new MLB high-end catcher. I think it's way more likely than the Contreras conversation that's been happening. But I don't know. Maybe I'm just at this point like settling in to where like if I set the bar really low, I won't be disappointed. But like, when's the last time the Cardinals have made a major free agent signing? I mean, I think Dexter Fowler, now extensions, contract reworks, things like that. Absolutely. They do that, but we don't see them go out and get these guys. When they do try, and usually fail, it's the like unicorn hitting free agency at age 27 and is like the perfect fit. But that's not really happening this year.
Carlos Correa.
Yeah, maybe, but I don't think they go for Correa. I think that they look at Mason Wynn and Edman and all that. I just don't see it. Now, I don't know. Like, am I being too pessimistic? What do you think?
What do I think is going to happen? Well, I predicted this, from day one, but Quintana, 2 years, $22 million, something like that. I think rotational depth is going to be a huge part. I do think that they will be attached to a lot of these big high end starters. I do think that the Nolan thing will be figured out, and I think he'll have a longer and more lucrative contract. I think those are all highly likely outcomes. I also think the Cardinals need to invest in some of their core. And right now, especially after last season, it's kind of hard for me to really say this guy or that guy, but Dylan Carlson, Tyler O'Neill could be extension candidates, or at least locking them up through arbitration, and maybe you're on top of that. I think that Tommy Edman is an extension candidate. I think Jack Flaherty could be an extension candidate, and maybe gotten for cheaper than we had originally thought. But I think something that the Cardinals need to address is the fact that they're kind of the core of the team is all either on deals that have, they're either legacy. I mean, it's really two guys on legacy deals that are Goldie and Arenado if he sticks around. And then outside of that, there's really not much certainty. There's a lot of arbitration that's coming up. There's a lot of players who are just, kind of going through the thing. And I think, everybody's been really impressed to see what the Braves have been doing. And I think taking a little page out of the Braves book would be very, very smart. And I believe, Girsch and Mo and whoever can figure out who they should put that money in. Do you go lock up Tyler O'Neill after a down season, get a deal, and lock up a player who I think you and I think is an all-star level player for the foreseeable future? I mean, maybe that's the move.
Yeah.
And well, here, I'll let you out. Yeah, you go, and then I'll talk about catcher.
Okay. So I would be very supportive of an extension right now of Jack Flaherty and Tyler O'Neill. But remember also, contracts are two-way streets. Those two guys have to accept a contract extension after both of them just had very down seasons. And the Cardinals would go in likely expecting a discount because of that. And I just, especially Jack, but Tyler O'Neill as well, like, I suspect that the two of them would rather go through arbitration again, come out the other side, and try to have a much better 2023 to set themselves up for a significantly better pay raise. The thing that the Braves are doing is they're going in on these guys when they're like a month or two into the league, and they're
Matt
offering
Olson
them.
Was not a month or two in the league.
No, that's fair, but
Riley
they had
wasn't
also
a month or two in the league.
With Matt Olson, they had tried to give that much money to Freeman, and he just turned it down. So they were already primed to make this mega deal. But the thing that the Braves that everyone's really keeps talking about is the Michael Harris's, the Vaughn Grissom's, the Acuñas, the Ozzy Albies. These guys that play for 2 months, look good, and they extend them for $50 million.
Yeah,
we don't really have that right now with the Card. Who would that be on the Cardinals?
Yeah. And I think the counter argument to that, Nate, is that you're Tyler O'Neill and you've learned how fragile, a baseball player can be. And somebody sits down and says, here's 60 million, 70 million, 80 million bucks. And you're like, oh shit, this is guaranteed. I'm just going to take this.
Which is the whole thing why I don't think what the Braves have been doing is really, some people have been mad about it or think it's exploitive. I don't think it is at all. I think it's a risk on both sides, I think just these guys are a little bit further into their careers. They already have, what was Tyler's arbitration last year? $5.5 million. Jack's made several million. It's not like they're these guys that are just out of the minor league camp, who've been living in 1-bedroom apartments with 4 other people. They are millionaires already, and they've had success in the big leagues. So I just, maybe I just don't think you get the discount that you think you would get. And
Dylan Carlson, I think, should be in that conversation too, though.
He's closer to it. Yeah. I think, that makes more sense to me than I think you could get Carlson at a lower price after last year's down year than you could maybe an O'Neill or a Flaherty. I will say again, either way, discount or not, I'd be supportive of those extensions, which is why I think something like that is going to happen. The Cardinals have estimate, if they just go back to the with no real major increases, the estimate right now is that they probably have around 30 million or so to play with as far as openings for this off season. And that is baking in a lot of the standard arbitration escalation. So do you use that on one single big free agent and pay someone 30 a year or thereabouts? I think you and I would both prefer that, but I think the most likely thing is we're just going to see a bunch of like little deals. I bet they do get a catcher, but I think the most likely thing is like the old way the Cardinals used to do, which is sign like the old dude who can just sort of be there and play for you while they have Kisner and eventually Herrera. But you wanted to say something about catcher. So what's your...
Yeah. I think the good news. I think the Sean Murphy thing is the best option. He's young. He just had a great year. He is a very good defender, and he is a very good hitter. And he's still got RBs left. And that would be a guy that you trade for and lock up, and he's your catcher for a while. Really, really like him. And you would have to imagine that where the A's are in their competitive window, that you can get pretty creative as far as which prospects you're going to be moving. And by that, I mean young guys, guys you have they're not going to be super picky. They're not going to say just this guy. I think they'll kind of take value over positional like preference.
Yeah.
That being said, Sean Murphy's going to cost you like a Nolan Gorman and somebody else. He is not going to be cheap. He's very good, and other people are going to be going for him as well. But to get back to what I think is more likely to happen, Christian Vazquez, Roberto Perez, and Gary Sanchez are all free agents this year. And I think that if you do want to get Gary Sanchez, I do think it's a good idea because he can play catcher. He can also DH. And I bet he's cheap. And Christian Vazquez, I think, is massively underrated. He is a fantastic defender and a pretty good contact hitter. He's kind of like Yadi light a little bit, or at least the most comparable thing on the free agent market. Big fan of him. There's also Omar Narvaez, who was with the Brewers last year, who is a very good framer and a pretty solid hitter, even though he had a down year. I like all those guys. I've also talked about trading for Max Stassi, who I think is vastly underrated over there with the Angels. He's an excellent defender and an okay hitter and a very good framer. So I like all of those ideas. I do think, I've talked about this all year. I do think the Cardinals do need to go get somebody who can really backfill Yadi, not a Kisner Herrera tandem. I want an adult who's done it before behind the plate. And I will reiterate this. If Sean Murphy is going to cost Nolan Gorman plus, I'm pretty interested in having that conversation. Like Gorman and Liberatore for Sean Murphy, I probably say yes. Does that get it done? I don't know exactly. I need to think about it more. But I think the Cardinals should be aggressive in getting him. And I think I just think he's really special. I think he is as good of a catcher as there is out there right now. Although Adley Rutschman is probably the best just because of what he did. But you're not getting him. He's not available forever. But yeah.
I mean, he certainly seems like the next like Buster Posey, right? Or like, just that rallying captain of a team that turns them around. So, I like, Sean Murphy. I initially cringe at like Gorman and Liberatore, but I mean, you're acquiring one of the best catchers in baseball, and it would be a huge step up in our lineup because as much as we all love Yadi, it's been a hole in the lineup, and the rest of the lineup is still there. You still have, assuming Arenado's back, like think of how deep the lineup looks now with Murphy at probably 5 or maybe 6 rather than
he could be your 3 or 5 or 6 easy depending on how you want to organize that. And again, like cannon arm, great framer, young, athletic. Like if you could create a catcher in a video game or whatever, he'd look a lot like Sean Murphy.
To me, this all comes down to what is the Cardinals' actual perspective of Ivan Herrera, because by going and spending all that for Murphy, you're now saying Herrera is not our plan. And that's a pretty steep fall from not that long ago, like middle of 2022 season, when it sure still seemed like he was the future. So are you really letting 3 months of questionable outcomes determine that you're done with that with the project of Herrera, which you could say maybe it doesn't, you don't have to go all the way to say we're done with him, just that guy over there looks better than what what we think you will do for us. prioritizing short term, but
to me, and Murphy's not as good as Arenado. I'm not shocking anyone by saying that, but to me, that's like, oh, we shouldn't go get Nolan Arenado because Nolan Gorman is over there and he's a prospect that's coming up. Like, no, just go get the guy that you know that's good, and you'll figure out what to do with Herrera when the time is right. But he's not. I don't think he's going to be banging the door down by any means, and obviously the defense isn't there. It's highly likely that he'll be, very, very a very solid major league defender in a year or two, or it could be he takes a step forward this offseason. But like I said, like you don't know, not go get the superstar because you got somebody who may be good.
Speaking of prospects, I meant to say this earlier when we were talking about Arenado, but if Arenado does opt out, I mean, the Cardinals basically announced Jordan Walker's the starting third baseman going into the season, right? Like,
sure.
I guess you could more likely they say Gorman, and then Walker comes in, but
all those reports talk about just how unbelievably athletic Jordan Walker is and how good he looks getting low at third base. Yeah. His arm just got clocked at almost 100 miles an hour in the outfield. I mean, I don't know. I bet it plays. I'll take a chance there.
It's what he was doing until they're like, oh, he will not be a third baseman for the Cardinals because of Arenado. Yeah. He's only been in the outfield for a little while now, and he's been crushing it out there. He looks great. But okay, yeah, I hope that it's Sean Murphy as well. And if we can move into like what we really want to happen, what I think there are two moves that I truly want, and I think still sit in the realm of possible outcomes, because if we want to just go full on, like get Trey Turner, get Sean, but I think Murphy is on my list of like, this is the true outcomes that I want. And then you already said it, but Rodon, it's like so obvious to me that Carlos Rodon is exactly what this team needs. He workhorse ace. He's amazing left-hander. Like, I'm a huge fan of him. When the Giants signed him, I was like, what a missed opportunity for the Cardinals. And it was exactly right. And then I was ringing the bell for them to trade for him at the trade deadline. And, they went a different route. But like, Rodon, I think, is exactly the kind of guy that they need right now. And the whole rotation looks so different with Rodon at the top. If Flaherty and Montgomery are your number 2 and your number 3, and Michaelis is in there too, like, what a difference that makes. Yeah. And Waino can be your 5th, and then Matz and everyone else are all competing for that 6th spot, or whatever ineffectiveness or injury happens, you've got your depth guys are actually depth guys and not like rotating around your 5th spot. So Murphy and Rodon are who I would love for the Cardinals to, like, if they could do that, it'd be such a significant offseason, I think.
Yeah, and like, to just like, you're talking about adding 10 plus WAR to the team. That would be right. That'd be a great, with those 2 players involved. I think that would be great. So yeah, I think Rodon makes a lot of sense. I said his name already today. Mike Clevenger is a name that I find very interesting. He came back, obviously, had some health issues that he'd been dealing with, but the guy still got great stuff. I think you could maybe buy low even a little bit on him. And give him, I don't know, a 3 or 4 year deal. I think that would be very interesting. I already said Bassett, who's a guy that he's the only problem with Bassett is it's hard to slot him into the front of the lineup. Same with Sean Manaea. Hard to slot those guys as number 1, but they are very good, effective ground ball pitchers. And then there's some budget options. Nick Martinez is sort of interesting. Martin Perez is sort of interesting. We've already talked about Quintana. So those names I don't know. There's, all those names out there are fun. I would say somebody who I would be, I don't, I'll just say the name and then we can talk about it. Brandon Nimmo is going to be a free agent, and he is a very good defender. He steals bases. He takes a lot of walks, and he's a left-handed hitter, and he could slot in at the top of the Cardinals lineup extremely well, I think. Really, you're just kind of buying more into the the game plan of having your on-base guys 1-2, and then your mashers come up 3, 4, 5, 6, or however deep you feel that lineup is. But I think he's a guy that can be got for not a ton of money. like I said, I like his defense. I like his bat. I like kind of everything he does. I like how when he takes a walk, he sprints to first base like a lunatic. And I think, like,
is it Brad Penny who would run in and slide into the pitcher's mound?
no. That was he was the Heath Bell.
Heath Bell, yeah.
Heath Bell for the
That's the
Padres.
kind of energy that we need on this team.
But Brandon Nimmo has one of those skill sets that I think you can imagine aging pretty well. He's got one of the best eyes in the game. That thing usually, or that skill, sits around for a while, and another left-handed bat. Especially with moving on from Bader, I don't know, an outfield of if Lars or Dylan is your fourth outfielder, and you got Nimmo out in right field every day, I'll buy that for $1.
Well, I mean, if he's only $1, that's an easy choice. But I don't know. I mean, I like Nimmo. I've been a fan of him for a while, and he's one of those pieces that leads to a team like the Mets being able to win 100 games, or even like you're like not top end players have a really distinct, valuable skill set that layer on and make a like sort of an elite supporting cast. My only problem with it is that so now you've got we're you and I feel locked in on Tyler O'Neill left field. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, he has shown consistent injury concerns over the years, so you assume there's some opportunity in left field, even if you assume Tyler is your starting. But still, you've got a guy you're check marking as your starter. Carlson in center or right field. I think you and I still both believe. We just talked about extending him, and you're not doing that unless you think he is a permanent starter as well.
Right.
So you got Carlson and you've got O'Neill. Okay, those are locked in. We also think Newtbar has had a bit of a breakout. We also think Alec Burleson was starting to break out. We also say Yepes. We also think Jordan Walker is a competitive outfielder. So I just don't know, like, where are you if you have a limited amount of resources as far as money on who you sign? I like Nemo, but I think I would just much rather see that money be like a third of the cost of Rodon or whatever it might be. Now, if you end up trading a couple of those outfielders in the pursuit of Sean Murphy, okay, now it's starting to come around, but as it is, I cannot see the Cardinals are more likely to trade an outfielder than they are to sign one right now.
I think they should do both. I also think, like, again, like I'm a big fan of Burley, big fan of Yepes, big fan of Newt. I like those guys. One of them is probably going to hit. But I just think the Cardinals could use more consistency on the offense. I like having more left-handed bats. I mean, look at how much starting time Corey Dickerson got this year. I just think that, whether that's good or bad, I think that the depth could be used, and maybe Newt is wearing an A's uniform next year. I don't know exactly how that folds out, but I think that is the type of player that the Cardinals haven't had for a while. I mean, since Carp, and getting somebody in there at the top of the lineup to clog up the bases. I just, that is my methodology. That's what we saw the Cardinals do this year and score a lot of runs. I say keep going.
Yeah.
Also, he's a good defender. Also, he's a good base runner. Also, I think it's going to age well. Also, I don't think he's going to be that expensive. There's all those other things as well. But again, like, I don't want to overvalue the prospects, even though I agree with, of course, we like those guys.
Right.
And that being said, if we sign Nemo and Jordan Walker is crushing everything, like, I don't know, I bet we find a space for him.
Yeah. Yeah, well, there's with the DH and with the road, there's a lot of places for these guys. And Dick, you're right. Dickerson got a lot of at bats, but that was also really before we had started bringing in Burleson. It's like the addition of Burleson and Walker is where I think you are at that log jam that we didn't quite run into this year because those guys were not ready. So, all right, well, none of this is going to be resolved, maybe even for months. So I think we'll be checking in on this,
This will be constant conversation this year.
Yeah. So let's check in on the rest of the league. Not a lot to talk about other than the playoffs, but there's a few good stories in here. I do think it's pretty interesting that is this what you wanted, MLB? You wanted all your best teams to have to go through, So we've got a Phillies, Padres, NLCS, which I think it's great. We don't we don't need the Braves there again. We don't need the Dodgers there again.
Parity is important for the health of the sport. Yeah.
Yeah, people keep saying like, oh, the MLB really wants the Yankees in the World Series, or the MLB really wants the Astros in the World Series. They really wanted the Dodgers in the World Series, and I get the argument on the short term because those just have bigger fan bases and they want those games to have really high ratings. But I don't know. I think like for the long term value of the sport, you need seasons like this where the World Series has a like underdog team in it, and hopefully even a winner where like, I think it adds excitement to the league more broadly, even if like an individual game has lower ratings.
Yeah, and like, how do you not like if you're a small market team? How are you not pumped for what the Padres are doing?
Right.
If you're a poorly ran organization, how are you not, happy to see what the Phillies are doing? Like, hey, maybe the Rockies
Hey, we
can.
could do it too.
Yeah.
We go all in on one idea.
Yeah, hey, and it's working. That the whatever team has the most home runs usually wins a playoff game. So, no, I think it's absolutely fantastic. I will say, I'm definitely rooting for the Padres to overtake the Phillies, although the Phillies are looking really good. I mean, that Schwarber home run. I know it's just
I had a freaking PTSD from the
wow.
2015 playoffs.
120 miles an hour off the bat, 488 feet, the hardest hit ball of his entire career. Kyle Schwarber looking, his swing is short and quick and powerful right now. Like, not to mention that Mr. Harper has gone completely out of his mind, and they have those two high end starters that we got to meet. Like, watch out, Phillies. I'm definitely, I don't think I really am caring like with my heart any direction. I do like the idea of the Padres just because it's been way longer since they've been there. Than the Phillies. The Phillies, it's only been a decade, which is something, but not as long
what
as
was
the Padres.
because of the pandemic, the last time Padres fans saw a win at home in the playoffs was like 1996 or something like that. Like, big time drought. And I don't know why. I think it's recency where the Cardinals were eliminated by the Padres. So I have this like inherent like boo
Phillies.
Padres and Phillies. I mean, the Padres eliminated the Cardinals in 2020 and now the Phillies in 2022. But I'm like not feeling joy for either of these teams, and I think it's because of my extreme bias towards the Cardinals. But if I have to pick between the two of them, there's a lot of guys I like on the Padres, and I love the video game way in which AJ Preller tries to build his teams, which is like prospects be damned. I'm going to ram through these trades. I'm just going to keep piling people on until they say yes. And now he's got an NLCS team, so.
Yeah. Is anybody talking about like the Juan Soto and Bryce Harper of it all? Like these two guys that used to be the driving engines of the Nationals now facing off against each other tonight, the night that we're recording this, we have Austin Nola versus Aaron Nola, which is very exciting. I mean, this is a great series. This is one that I'm locked into. I'm actually going, shout out my buddy, Steven. What up, Steven? If he's listening to this, we're going to go to this local bar called Stoney's, and they have unlimited wings tonight. We're going to watch the back half of the Padres game.
Wings?
Yeah. It's
Do they know you're going?
We've done this before. It's very
you
dangerous.
Pre-warned them? What is it?
We called ahead.
Is it $100? Because wings are so expensive right now.
No, it's like $15. It's a great deal.
It'd be cheaper for me to get a flight out there and join you than it would be for me to consume the amount of wings that I want to consume at a bar around here.
I'll put photos in the Birds Cord. But yeah, we'll catch a little bit of the Phillies Padres game, but we're mostly going to be watching the Yanks and Stros. So I guess to button that up, though, I'm definitely Team Padres. Ha-Seong Kim is my guy. I like Yu Darvish. I like Blake Snell. Who else do I like over there? I like Juan Soto. Trent Grisham I kind of like because he's so serious and angry looking all the time. And Hader, I'm kind of happy about this Hader story. He's kind of kicked it back into gear. and the Brewers should be
Yeah,
punished
because
by
of course
watching
he
him.
is. Yeah,
Yeah,
of course he is. He's like likely a Hall of Fame or near Hall
yeah,
of Fame reliever. Not surprised that he's looking good again, you
yeah.
know?
So him clicking in is good. And then yeah, really quickly going over to the AL, that Josh Naylor home run with him rocking the baby to sleep was maybe my favorite home run
I
celebration that
love
I
it.
can remember.
And then the crowd turning it on him, but
Yeah.
he loves it. If you
Oh
saw that
yeah.
quote from him, like, he was ecstatic that they were shouting that at him. Like, I love it.
Josh
Man,
Naylor is an insane person.
yeah,
I can't wait till his brother break. He's got a brother, Bro Naylor, who is
yeah,
apparently also insane. I can't wait for them to be
dude,
on the same team together. That like the stadium might
yeah.
fall apart.
Nothing more baller than running around the bases pretending to rock a baby.
You're my son. You're my son. And apparently he says any pitcher that he hits a home run off is his son, and I just
Yeah,
love that
that's
so
so
much.
good.
That is the kind of baseball we need more of. Too bad
Yeah,
he's on the Guardians and nobody watches him, and I guess
yeah.
too bad they got knocked out by the Yankees, and there's
I know.
all
That
that
they
silliness around their game. Yeah,
at the point in which they were still in and most of the other series had been resolved, the Guardians were my favorite team remaining
yeah,
in the playoff series. So,
yeah.
but
Hey, they are of all the teams in this playoff bracket, you could probably say that they're the most set up to win. They are
they're
the
the youngest
youngest
team in
team in
yeah,
baseball. Yeah,
yeah,
they
it's
are
wild. Yeah.
only on the upswing, so it'll be exciting to
Yeah.
watch them. But of course, the Yankees beat them in the final game with a home run from Giancarlo and a home run from Aaron Judge, and that's just the way the Yankees are going to win games. They're going against the Astros tonight in Game One. The Astros pretty much wiped the Mariners just completely out of it. Mary and I actually sat and watched that 18 inning game, which was the longest postseason game in MLB history. And there was not a run scored until Jeremy Pena hit a solo home run in the top of the 18th. What a ridiculous game.
Yeah.
Disappointed to see the Astros. The Astros do have some guys I like. I like JV. He's great. I like Jordan Alvarez. He's great. I find most of the rest of the team to be pretty obnoxious. So
Well,
I don't know who I even want to win that series.
I mean, besides the cheating stuff, which is, further getting further and further away, and you can't really hold most of the guys on this team accountable for any of that at this point. But it's more just like success fatigue with
Yeah.
us in the Astros. It's like the same with the Dodgers, even though they are really good at getting eliminated in the playoffs. Like, I just don't want to see the Astros in
Yeah.
the World Series. I know. I also there's just like I think on a player to player level, I actually like the Yankees. There's a lot of guys that I like on the Yankees, but I don't like the Yankees
Yeah.
because I think we've all been like brought up to not like the Yankees,
Yeah.
and even if they're not really the same type of team they were way back in the day, and also just our fundamental respect for teams spending money is completely flipped on its head from how
Yeah.
it used to be and why everyone hated the Yankees. But I don't know. Maybe there's part of me where it's like someday the Cardinals will catch them in championships, even though that might take 200 years. I still
Yeah.
want
Yeah.
that to happen. So I just don't want to see them win any more championships. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think. Okay. So I think that through this conversation, then I think I am rooting for the Yankees to beat the Astros. We also have, to tip the scale, we have Harry Bader and
Yeah.
Matt Carpenter who could win a ring or at least be in the World Series, and that would be really exciting.
I'd be happy. That is the one part that like I guess I'm pro Padres overall on this whole bracket that
Yeah.
remains, but like I'd be I'd be okay with the Yankees winning because it would be fun for Bader to be on that stage, and it would be, I think, nice for Carpenter to get another shot at it. He already has one, and he was in another one, and then to go at a third, I think would be fun.
Yeah. I'm flying to New York tomorrow. Maybe I will catch the Astros over the weekend, and I'll hit Altuve in the back of the leg or rip off his jersey and find his Apple Watch
Yeah,
detector thingy or whatever.
you should definitely try to like assault and injure a Major League Baseball player. I
get put in the hospital by somebody who's 5'6".
I'm fully supportive of this.
Well, I want to be clear. I want to go after like
you just want to rip off a shirt. Just that's like a thing that is not a crime. Just us running up to someone and ripping off their shirt.
I want to mess with Jordan or JV. I mean, there's a lot of scary men on that team.
Bet Jose Altuve could pick you up and rip you in half like a phone book.
Wouldn't even be a competition. I would have. I could probably get a good first shot in on him. And then the lights would go out for old Benny Sims.
Yeah, I mean, what are you, 6'2", 350 or so? So I think you could. I think it would be easy.
If I was 350, I could take him. I just got to fall on him. I don't think he could lift that. So fuck you. I wish I was 350. I'd have a lot more good food in me. Really quick, total caveat. Cardinals should sign Michael Brantley. He's in his final year. He's injured right now. He's in his final year with the Astros. He should come to the Cardinals side and be a DH.
Get to DH. As I say, get another oft injured aging outfielder. That's what we need.
I like Michael Brantley.
Yeah, I mean I do too. I like Brantley, but all right. Well, I guess that's it for
glad the Dodgers are gone. Take a hike. Eat my shoe. Jerks.
111 wins and
not enough.
One in the playoffs.
Boom.
All right, so let's go into the final segment. We're going to play a version of a game that we've played several times. One of our favorite games. What did he do?
What did he do?
Only this time, we're doing what did they do? The 2022 season is over for the St. Louis Cardinals. How did the season end? How did they do as a collective team?
Okay.
I am going to run through some stats, and I'm going to give you a number, and you have to tell me over under. I've made this very simple for you. Over under I'll give you, for example,
I understand how over under works.
All right, you get it. So we'll just get started. Get started. You get confused. So, all right. So I've broken this into two categories. We've got hitting stats and we've got pitching stats. So we're going to start with a big one. Home runs. Over under 200 home runs on the season for the St. Louis Cardinals.
Yeah, that sucks because I was going to guess the home run total was right around 200. The offense was fairly prolific. We got basically half the way there with three players. Did the other guys hit around 100? I'm going to say, no. I'm going to say under.
Correct. They hit 197 home runs.
Holy crap. Well, okay. That's good to know that my instinct was at least close.
Yeah.
And I won,
almost right at 200. Yeah. All right. Let's alternate. Let's go back and forth between pitching and hitting. Okay.
It seems like I didn't have a choice anyway, so you do whatever you want. You sick freak.
Right. That's right. I do whatever I want. All right. Interesting year for the relief corps.
Yeah.
Interesting year for the season overall.
Yeah.
Saves.
Yeah.
Over under 40 saves.
Oh, they were so spread out. But this team was really our boom or bust team. There weren't that many save opportunities because there were blowouts. I'm going to say under 40 saves.
You got it again. You're right. It was they had 37 saves as a team, which is really interesting because there are a lot of individual relievers out there who had more than 37, let alone like an entire team.
Sure.
So, all right. Over under 100 stolen bases.
Ooh. Okay. I know Tommy got 30 by himself. Bader had a good amount as well before he left. Other than that, people weren't really stealing bases. Albert had one, I think, or two, and Yadi had one or two. And nobody else was really stealing bases. You said 100?
Yes.
I'm going to say under 100.
3 in a row. 95 stolen bases.
Wow, that's higher than I thought. I thought it was going to be closer to like 70 something.
Yeah. Yeah, I tried to pick like nice round numbers to go off of, but they're pretty close. At least these ones, they've been pretty close to the number. All right, what was that? Offensive. All right. Let's do K per 9.
Okay.
Over
As a
under
team?
As a team.
Okay.
Over under 7.5.
Under 7.5. I think that's like right at it. They did not strike people out a lot this year. See, that's like exactly what I would have guessed that their K per 9 was this year.
I'm really good at setting the line.
Yeah. Then, because they were so bad at striking people out, they weren't the worst, but they were one of the worst. I'm going to just say that was also under.
That's correct. 7.35.
Oh, man.
What a low K per 9.
Yes, it is.
All right.
They've all been under.
They have all been under. I didn't think about that when I was putting this together. But
what did you think about?
Nothing. I just put numbers on it. I just black out and put numbers on a screen.
All right.
But see, now you think the next one might be over.
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
okay,
I'm in his head, ladies and gentlemen.
40 chess. Holy shit. Wow.
All right. So that was K per 9 from the pitching side.
Yeah.
What about strikeout percentage from the offensive side?
Okay.
Over under 19.5%.
Huh. I would have guessed over that. But I don't really have this number anywhere in my brain. I don't really have a good reference point. I'm just going to say over because I think it seems low.
Yeah, but not by much. 19.9%.
You suck. I got it, but my God, that's tough.
All right. Let me see.
Oh, let me look at my numbers.
All right. Ground ball percentage.
Oh, yeah. Bread and butter of the team.
Over under 46%.
Yeah. I don't think they were quite at 50, but I do think they were over that. So I'm going to say over.
47.2%. Yeah.
That's what they do.
All right. Walk percentage as a offensive team.
Oh, man.
Over under 8.25%.
8.25%. Remember last year when they broke the record of most walks with the bases loaded? That was so painful.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do. You know, it looked like there for a little bit that they might not, and then, they did.
What was the number? You said 8.4%?
8.25.
8.25. I'm going to go. They really did not walk people a lot this year.
Wait. We're looking offensively. The walk percent of the team.
Oh, okay. I mean, they did walk a lot this year. Then that totally flips it.
Did they though?
I think they did. But
did they though?
They weren't prolific. I'm going to say they're over.
Yes, they did. 8.7%. I feel like these are really good lines, and you're getting all of them. So good work.
It's almost like I watched the Cardinals every day for 6 months.
Yeah. All right. Home runs per 9 given up by the Cardinal pitching staff.
Okay. They were pretty stingy.
So home runs per 9, 1.
Oof. So did they give up 162 home runs or less this year?
Well, it'd be because of extra innings and stuff. It wouldn't be a
but that
perfect.
only slightly imbalances it because there was no long games this year.
That only slightly imbalancing. I can do what you do to me. All right.
Sorry, I'm trying to think of something. I'll just sit here quietly and think next time. I think they were under that. I think they were under 1.
That is correct. They actually had the third best home run per 9 in baseball.
Oh, they actually had.
Only 7 teams had an under 1, and the best was the Giants at 0.83. Maybe something to do with home park too, but obviously they had still had some pretty good. I mean, they had Rodon and Webb. The one thing that was pretty good about their pitching. But just looking at this, the Washington 1.56, almost double the Giants.
Man,
yeah. All right. Here's a fun one. BABIP for the team as an offensive unit.
Yeah.
Were they over under a 300 BABIP?
So here's what I know about this question. Brendan Donovan ran a super high BABIP all year. Paulie did too. Paul Goldschmidt did. I mean, Nolan Arenado also ran a high BABIP. Those are kind of the 3 offensive, engines. So I have to assume it's above that. I'm going to say over 300 BABIP on the offense.
Finally got you with one of these. They actually, as a team, had a 289 BABIP.
All right.
Which I was pretty surprised by as well. But then I was thinking well, obviously we had some high-end batting averages on this team this year, but the entire bottom half of the lineup was pretty bad, and so
regression to the mean next year then. Let's go.
Maybe, but also a BABIP can be low also because you're just bad at hitting. A lot of ground balls, a lot of slow roll,
Most of Yadi's season.
Exactly. Not everyone is going to have a nice BABIP. You can just not be great also.
Yeah, fair enough.
289 on that one. All right. And my final one.
All right.
XFIP.
Okay.
So expected FIP. Yes. If you're unfamiliar, this is, the best shot at like a fielding independent pitching. What would your pitching staff, what would the results be if you were in a neutral ballpark with a neutral defense behind you? So it's trying to say what was the true outcome of your pitching, if that makes sense. So over under 3.75.
I thought the line was going to be higher than that, which makes me think that it's over than that, just because that's kind of the way the Cardinals are built. They're built to be FIP breakers. So I'm going to say over that.
Yeah, I went back and forth on how to set this line because I was thinking when it was all said and done with guys like Montgomery and Michaelis and them having pretty good years, you could maybe see them having a lower and the bullpen, how good it was. I thought maybe I could get you with this one, but no, it's a 4.03 XFIP.
Yeah. I was going to guess 4 was going to be the line, actually.
I almost set it at 4, but I tried not to set it like 1 decimal point off.
That would have been hard. I probably still would have guessed over, maybe.
Yeah. There was a part of me that wanted to be really evil and just set every line at exactly a decimal point one way or another and make it but I don't think that's as fun. So, or maybe it would have been more fun because you got 9 of 10. So, so good work. So, all right. Well, that will do it for this episode of Talking About Birds. We are going hard into this off season.
Oh, God.
We're not slowing down. Check out the Patreon.
Hell yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening, for being a part of this all off season. Tell your friends, tell your family,
Go back to just grabbing people's phone and subscribing for us.
Tell your dog. We don't know. Do dogs listen to podcasts? Maybe. Who could know? I know because of our platform that some people listen to this podcast on Alexa, which makes no sense to me. So maybe it's a dog.
Okay.
Right?
Sure.
Like,
what if you're cooking dinner or something?
I don't want to bash, listen to us however you want. I was just very surprised. And I think of all the ways for a dog to listen to a podcast, I think Alexa makes the most sense to me.
You don't. Okay, let's break this down. So you think that a voice command works better for a dog than like a touch screen?
There's no way.
Stupid.
I think it's more likely that a dog could learn English than a dog could navigate an iPhone.
Okay.
If they're already listening to podcasts, they're showing an elevated understanding of language.
Sure. Have you ever met a dog?
I've never seen one in my life.
Okay, that makes more sense.
But I've seen Inspector Gadget. I've seen Homeward Bound. I've seen the entire Air Bud and Air Bud Extended Universe.
Sure. Hey, there's nothing in the rule books that says a dog can't listen to a podcast.
That's right. Super Buddies, Spooky Buddies.
Stop.
Treasure Buddies.
Stop listing dog movies.
I will not stop listening. All right, whatever. Goodbye, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Song Kim. Song Kim.